Idea you need a weapon that can have the ability to fire 20, 30, 40, 50, 120 shots from that weapon, whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Death by Tyranny podcast. I know a lot of us have been wondering what's going on with Afghanistan, but before I get into that, let me get you some background music. There's a lot of dogs barking. Alright, so I know a lot of you guys have been wondering about what's going on in Afghanistan and why things went so wrong. A lot of us have speculated that maybe some of this clear stupidity was on purpose. Maybe that some of this is to distract us from other things going on in our own country. And I think that's a good theory to go off of because, quite frankly, we've seen everything stop and shift to Afghanistan overnight and take away from the vaccine mandates as well as some of the other things going on. And we know that even though Afghanistan was such a disaster of a pullout, Biden did not slow down on anything else that he is doing to destroy this country. Well, I think I may have stumbled upon what some of the distraction might be about. So, going off of the clear disaster of Afghanistan, it has recently came out, and I doubt it's been covered in many of the liberal mainstream media and news, that some of the drone operators did have lock on the bomber at the Kabul airport and was told to stand down. And now we know what happened after the fact, and why they were told to stand down it is unknown. I think we all have our suspicions there, but that's just one more thing adding to why was this such a disaster? Was it on purpose? Was it supposed to distract us from something? So, quite frankly, after every scenario where something like this happens, we are still told to trust in the government, that they are doing the best on our behalf. And the left, over the last just few recent years, have switched to totally discarding everything that the government has to say, to worshiping them like they're at the altar. And quite frankly, I don't know why we still have this holy trust in the government. I think we need to get away from that. We need to question more, and the government, quite frankly, needs to be more transparent. And until that happens, you're always going to have one side or the other. You know, if everything was going good for Republicans and the right, the left would go back to not trusting the government. There is no bipartisan, trust or distrust. It's always one side or the other. And if any good has come out of, the government taking the side of the left and them going gung-ho, it's that now a lot of the people on the right can see through this bullshit. And hopefully they continue to do so if we get another Republican president in office, that we can remember to a time where they were distrustful, and in almost every tragedy that we've seen over the last couple of decades, the government has had its dirty hands involved in it. We have to remember the things that happen, and we are always too quick to forget. And the left, the left is very good at this. And quite frankly, I think it's why they want to tear down statues and to rewrite history and carry on with this critical race theory It's because they know that some of us haven't forgotten, but they can get the next generation to forget. And this goes into play when they are preaching and pushing for equality that is not truly equality. You can remember a time now where if people were forced to sit on the back of the bus and weren't allowed to sit at a diner in private businesses, that this was made illegal and they could not do it. But jump forward just a couple decades, social media can ban a whole group of people for the way they think and who they are, and the left wants to defend this with the fact that Facebook and Instagram and everything like that is a private business. But they forget that just recently in the past, private businesses were made and forced to abide by not discriminating against certain types of people. And I think that is why they want to erase history. It's so it benefits them in the long run. So we can't look back in a time and say, hey, the argument that we're using now, you used to profit and to move forward in this equality movement, but now that it should work for us, you're not allowing it to. You're erasing the history that proves that this is the right thing to do. So I do not for 1 second believe that the left wants equality. And I've said this for a long time. It's not equality that they're after revenge. And they prove this time and time again. So I think we really have to remind these people that history benefited them, and if they truly want equality, they must let it benefit us as well. But I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. And back to not trusting the government, and this is the main thing I want to talk about with you guys today. So, we clearly know that there was some blatant disregard for things that may have diverted from the tragedies in Afghanistan. And like I said, some of us have theories that this was done to distract us from other things going on in our own country. And it plays into the thought that we should not trust the government. Recently, I just stumbled upon an article where the NRA was going over Biden's transcripts and discovered that he is planning to sign a global small arms treaty. Excuse me. Now, what does that mean for the United States and the United States citizens? Well, that means a global registry. And you can find this online and the transcripts, and as crazy as it sounds, it is exactly how it sounds. We know that they have been long wanting a registry in the United States, but cannot do so due to the Supreme Court and the Constitution. Well, if he was to sign a UN treaty of sorts, there is no checks and balances that he has to go through there. He would not have to go through the Senate or the House to sign this treaty. And the treaty would include the tracking of all firearms entering the United States. And even that, if it doesn't sound like a big deal to you, let me remind you that most of the firearms that we use in the United States has some ties to outside of the United States. Many of them have built factories in the United States to divert and avoid stuff like this, but they still import parts and machine tooling and stuff like that. And almost all of your bigger names are not United States companies. And for the most part, the anti-gun crowd has almost dismantled American gun companies like Springfield, Ruger. These are not big hitters in the gun industry anymore, and it is large due to the anti-gun people going after them all the time for things that are unconstitutional, but they still have to fund to fight in court. And so we are left with companies like Beretta, Glock, CZ, FN, SIG. All of these are companies based not inside the United States. Yes, a lot of these have won U.S. military contracts and been forced to build factories inside the United States, but like I said, they still have a large part of their industry and what funds them outside of the United States. And what Joe Biden can eliminate these companies from doing may hinder their actions to move forward to help arm the U.S. population. And this treaty covers all firearms. Your old hunting rifle that comes in from Beretta, that would be tracked. And we know to track these weapons, you have to have a registry. And we know that the UN will make sure that the states overseas abides by this, in large portion because the United States funds most of it. So they're going to bend the knee so that they still get funding from the United States. And this is going to play into the long-term plan of disarming the American population. If he signs this treaty, it will track all the incoming firearms. So then all he has to do is keep the American gun companies wrapped up in lawsuits. And then the people who do decide to buy these firearms will be put on a registry and tracked. So now they know the people who own these firearms, where they live. I'm sure there's going to be fees and taxes that we have to pay to help fund this bullshit. And then you have the UN itself, which we know if there was ever a large-scale disarming of the United States population, that the UN would have to be involved, because a lot of our military service members are not going to go along with this. Although I'm sure a large portion of them will, you still might have some infighting there enough to avoid that. So they will bring in the UN. Or so they will bring in the UN troops. But the thing is the UN is already here. It is well based and established in the United States. The headquarters is in... Hold on. I had this pulled up for you guys. So yeah, you can go to Google right now. Where is the UN in the U.S.? New York City headquarters of the United Nations. So it's in New York. It's funny that they give, just this straightforward answer. But the fact of the matter is the UN has things implemented, chapters, divisions, inside of most of the states in the United States, Ohio being one of them. Let it be known that the UN has chapters in Ohio. Indiana does not, but Ohio is one that does have these UN establishments already here. It would not take, they already have the foundation. All Biden would have to do is call on these blue helmeted son of a bitches to come over here. They already have bases. They already have the infrastructure here. And it goes into our youth. Model UN is a department of the United Nations. They are already trying to corrupt our children. Model UN is in a lot of the big cities' high schools. And they're trying to make it seem like the UN is this great, awesome thing, and it is not. President Trump pulled us out for a reason, in large part because of financial reasons. But the most important part being, we need to just cut ties with the UN altogether. Not to mention, after Afghanistan, I doubt a lot of our allies in the UN trust us very much. So we just need to get somebody in there, if not Trump, somebody else that is going to get us away from this UN strategy. And God help us all if he signs this global small arms peace treaty. What are the United States citizens being disarmed? Who is that going to benefit? The only people that benefits are the people that would want to invade us. We already see China growing day after day, probably further than the United States is now, and Russia. So you are going to be disarmed. And if you're not disarmed, you're going to be put on a registry. And then at the beck and call of Biden, can call these troops from the UN over here and go door to door and pick us off one by one. They'll have our addresses. They'll have what we own. And that's 90,000 troops. And what are we going to do? Well, probably most of us aren't going to make it through our front door. I'll be laying there in a puddle of blood for sure. But the ones who do make it out of the door are going to be dragged straight to jail. And then our loved ones who will try to fight this and go to social media and any news network that will hear them to cry out to the rest of the nation that this is happening, well, it will be silenced. It will be silenced because the left is not fighting for equality. They want to be better. They want the rules to always play in their favor. They don't want us to be able to signal to the rest of the United States, hey, this administration is trying to disarm us. It is taking the well-being of other nations before the United States. Where else are you going to hear about this small arms global treaty than channels like this? I do know other people are making videos and podcasts about it, but it's not very many. And a lot of them are in large part not diving down the rabbit hole deep enough. This is a bad thing. There is no case law to fight a treaty that the U.S. president signs to disarm the American people, to track and have registries based outside of the United States. Why does Italy and France and countries like that need a database of what an American citizen owns to defend himself? What good is that going to do? Well, it's not going to do us any goddamn good. I tell you that. If the vaccine mandate wasn't your line in the sand, this should be. This is my line in the sand. I will not be put on a fucking registry. I will not be disarmed. And I will give my life to make sure that my kids are not as well. I honestly don't know what else to say about this. This should be appalling. This is a clear thing that is helping outside countries and not our own, and in my opinion, is nothing more than treason. No, if knowing that you could have saved service members and you didn't wasn't treason, if getting a hold of the Afghan president and telling him to lie about the situation so that he wouldn't get backlash from his citizens isn't treason. This is treason. And everybody with half a fucking brain needs to look into this. You don't even, I mean, you can look into it for yourself, and I would suggest that. But I'm telling you, as scary as this sounds, you are not going to look it up, and you are not going to find that it is something else, that people are blowing this out of proportion. This is exactly what it sounds like. There's no way around it. We've seen this. And we know they can't do it in the United States, so they have found a loophole. You cannot track firearms without a registry. That's why they do not like the background checks we have now. They don't like the background checks that we have now because every person is supposed to not be put on a registry after purchasing that firearm, which, I mean, is probably bullshit anyways. But when the president is flat out trying to do something like this, we have to try to stop it. That's all there is to it. That's why they want the universal background checks. How do you make a universal background check work? It sounds like it would work better than a regular background check, right? Well, yeah, it would work better. It works better because there is a database of every person who buys a firearm. And even that has faults. What are you going to go through hundreds of years of firearm purchases and backlog those firearms? No, you could only do it starting at a certain point. And if they tried to say, well, we can do it beyond that certain point, then that would prove that they are keeping information that they should not be keeping at all. This is very murky waters here. And I honestly don't see a way out of it as far as right now. If Biden was to sign this, there's not a whole lot we can do. That's not to say we shouldn't try. But like I said, he won't have to go through the Senate or the House. He would just sign the treaty. The UN will then form the database. They will start, tracking these firearms coming into the country. They will probably put some kind of clause in it to track parts as well, or any kind of machines that will be brought into the country to make these firearms. KVAR is a good thing to look at to kind of show you how this would work. KVAR was the largest importer of arsenal AKs in the United States, which in my opinion are really the only good AKs, but we can argue that point later. Well, they have already been banned from importing from Russia. They have already been banned from importing from China. We were getting them in from Bulgaria, and then they signed a bunch of military contracts, which slowed down that. So then they are making U.S. milled AK receivers over here and getting in parts kits and rebuilding them in Nevada. Well, a lot of that machining was imported from Bulgaria. So, I mean, all he would have to say is any firearm, accessories, tooling is also under this small arms treaty. Because that's a very vague thing. You're not just saying, hey, we need to track small arms. You could track anything to do with the manufacturing of these small arms. And quite frankly, once we are that far in, if he was to decide to just outright ban any import coming into the country, then all the anti-gunners have to do is like I said, keep people like Colt, which thank God CZ bought them because they are a little bit more financially stable, and their board isn't as corrupt. They don't have factories in Canada, which is very anti-gun at the moment. But then you have, CZ America, Colt, FN America, SIG, with factories over here. I believe Glock's making firearms over here. But there's only a handful of people. And there's a lot of people who are anti-gun. A lot of people with a lot of money that are anti-gun. Bloomberg, he's a large one. This guy's sinking millions of dollars into keeping Newsom governor of California, even though nobody wants him there. And what are we worried about? We're worried about an abortion law in Texas that's going to get swatted down from the Supreme Court. Yeah, they wouldn't hear the case, but trust and believe that this will be in play for like a couple of months. And then what's that guy's name? Wheelchair down there. Abbott. Abbott will be forced to make that go away. There's enough outcry from people with enough money to make that go away. Believe that. So, whether you take the abortion thing as a good thing or a bad thing, it's not gonna stick. And quite frankly, the time, energy, and money used to do it in Texas probably could have been used better elsewhere. And that's not to say that I agree with abortion or not. I believe it should be heavily regulated. I don't think you should just be able to do it at a whim's notice, but that's enough of that. I really don't care about the abortion debate. I know it's a big thing with conservatives right now, but if you aren't focused on what Biden is trying to do to disarm Americans, all your other lines in the sand kind of become null and void. What are you going to do? Run against people with billions of dollars? What are you going to do? Fight against people that are well connected politically? You have two choices. You can try to keep it peaceful and do it politically and hope that you win, but that's not a guarantee. The only guarantee is you keep your guns in case things get really out of hand. At least you can defend your immediate family. I'm not trying to, say let's all join militias. Don't do that. You're just gonna get put on a list before you need to be. But yeah, in my opinion, without the Second Amendment, the rest of the amendments don't matter. You can't defend without the Second Amendment. You can say the First Amendment's the most important, but it's not. If somebody points a gun at you and tells you to shut the fuck up, what good's the the First Amendment? It's not going to do you any good. What are you going to tell them to stop? The Second Amendment does not stop you from saying what you want to say, but it also does not stop the consequences that come after you have said it. A lot of people say, well, you can't say fire in a crowded theater. Yes, you can. You're going to get charged with inciting a panic, but you can absolutely say it. So, I don't know. You guys need to comment on this, man. Maybe I've always been a big Second Amendment guy, and like I said, this is my line in the sand. You can look into it for yourself and see if you think it's not as critical as it seems to be, but I'm telling you it is. There's not a whole lot of room here for interpretation. It says what it says. I've been looking for the transcripts all day, and if I can find it, I will probably just do like a Facebook Live and read it. I know everybody that follows me up to this point knows me on Facebook, so just to save time and to maybe get some live feedback, because I can't go live on YouTube until I get 1,000 subscribers. Which, by the way, if you want to like, share, subscribe if you see this video, it's much appreciated. I don't want the subscribers so I can get, you know, get the money from the advertisers or anything like that. I honestly don't care about that. All I care about is being able to go live so I can get live feedback and interact with people. And if I say something that isn't true, they can call me out on the spot. And so there's not a video out there of me saying something that's untrue for a long period of time. I can correct it, you know, live right there. Or if somebody wants me to look into something real quick a little bit further. But yeah, man, this is... Before I get off here, just real quick, let me see if it's up somewhere. International Small Arms Treaty. The ATT is what you're going to be looking for. The Arms Trade Treaty. This is already in play. I don't think this is what it is. Yeah, I'll see what I can do to get the actual transcripts. So I'm not just going off of people reading the transcripts. But I've read the articles. I just haven't seen anything with, you know, like a White House header on it. And for the most part, it's people saying that he is signaling that he's going to sign it. But that's when we need to be doing something about it. After he signs it, it's too late. It's not going to take but a year or two for him to disarm us after the fact. So when he signals that he's going to do something, this tyrannical, that's when we need to take action. I know this is a big deal in the Second Amendment community. Hopefully they organize something and start trying to fight it legally before it's done, and I'm sure they will. The Firearm Coalition, Policy Coalition is probably already doing something about it. We can go to their Instagram real quick. See what they're saying about it. That's not what we want there. Alright, well, I'm gonna get off here, guys. I got some stuff to do. I'll look into it. I will look into it for you guys. I gotta go make sure the kids get in bed. Like I said, if I can find anything else, I'll probably just get on to Facebook Live and read it off. Alright, well, you guys have a good one. Stay safe. Peace, y'all.